X created the Alexandra Files X account to, in their words, shine a light on the abuses of Brazilian law committed by Alexandra de Moraes, the Brazilian Supreme Court Justice, who has just ruled. So they ruled two things. Number one, regulators should block X access for Brazilians. And two, the users who access the site with a VPN should face daily fines of around $8,000. So there's two ways people have perceived this. Some have viewed the move as very autocratic and anti-democratic and anti-free speech, whereas some on the other side have called it an important statement of national sovereignty against a non-compliant company. Either way, it's clearly an escalation in the conflict between X and Brazil. And I think one of the interesting tweets we had replied to us the other day to say, like, wars won't be fought in the future in the same way as they did in the past. And it's really interesting to see this conflict between like a nation state versus X, the company now. So where do I stand on this? After I read into it, I can actually see down the middle on the issue in some ways, but there is some crucial information missing at the moment. And I think we will find out as we follow the case. So this is what we know so far. According to The Guardian, which is a more left-leaning source, admittedly, Alexandra de Moraes had been trying to force X to take down far-right voices as far back as January 2023 in the capital, Brasilia, but Elon resisted on the grounds that he wanted to protect free speech. But the reason for Moraes' latest specific action, explained by the Financial Times, is tied to a requirement under the country's civil code, where X was supposed to appoint a legal representative for the company in Brazil, but missed the deadline. So there are a few things which my takes hinge on. Two key questions. First, what do far-right voices mean with regard to January 2023? In every jurisdiction around the world, and I think crypto Twitter is kind of losing the perspective on this, and I kind of specialized in this as a media litigator at a big law firm. In every jurisdiction around the world, free speech is a qualified right, not an unqualified right, which exists in every circumstance. If the content published on X broke no laws, it should have been allowed to stay up, and Musk would be right to stand firm and push back on attempts to take it down. So you need to do a thorough investigation of that content to decide on that. The second question would be, what will be revealed by this new account? This is what I think will be pretty exciting to follow in the next few days and weeks. Like, who knows what kind of data X has on what the Brazilian politicians and courts have been communicating with X? And I guess we'll see what evidence there is of unlawful requests, if there were any. My take based on the facts, and there's a couple kind of more factual things, is that it would seem a bit ridiculous to me in isolation to miss a deadline for appointing a legal representative for Brazil. Like, usually this is a really routine, almost administrative task for companies. And so in the absence of all other facts, it'd be pretty dumb. It would be a dumb hill to die on as a reason to leave a country. But I guess there's a lot more going on here. So that would probably be the point. And also based on the facts, I think an 8K VPN fine for anyone trying to access X seems pretty egregious. And I feel like if you wanted to take down a website for non-compliance, it'd probably be best targeted response to the company, not the specific people of the country. In any event, in conclusion, it looks like we're going to see all kinds of court politician communications with X in the coming days and weeks. So much of what we think about this case, and more broadly how we think about speech online, might be shaped by these disclosures coming up. So that's the lowdown on that. Legendary, I want to come to you first, and then Dogwood, would love to hear your thoughts as well. Legendary, what's your take?
I think that's a fantastic summary of what's going on. And the caveats are exactly the right ones to make, that we absolutely need to wait to see what additional data X, respectively, Elon has and is going to share as part of that. It's interesting, however, because I agree with most of the points, I have nothing to add on them. But if you look at the bigger picture and look at Elon specifically, it's interesting how he's shaping up to be one of the most, if not the most important human in terms of political and global influence of our generation. Obviously has a stake in the US elections, is getting involved into politics in other countries, and has more reach than entire countries, has more reach than entire governments. And this is insane to think of a perspective from 50 years ago, 100 years ago, that a single person can have more reach than an entire nation state, and is putting that reach to use how he sees fit and fights for what he thinks is right or what serves his interest. And this is something that's unprecedented in human history. And that will be interesting to see how this will play out, Because if you look at a company as a monopoly, you would say, okay, this company needs to be split up. It has too much influence. But Elon is a person. You can't split him up, but he's definitely the most influential person when it comes to that. And the acquisition of X has massively added to his reach. So I will be very curious to follow in what other political arenas he will get involved, or geopolitical global arenas he will get involved over the next years. Even in the Brazil case, he said that he is thinking to give free Starlink access to people in Brazil so that they can access X without having to use a VPN and without being able to be tracked. And just that alone, that he has the power to give basically internet to people in a way that is still obviously in conflict with the law, but it makes it more difficult to track down and apply this VPN fee or fee fine of 8K a day is insanely powerful.